Hey, this is David, entry number 15. So, just last entry obviously was about trip to Seoul, and this entry is, I'm not sure what I'll talk about, but this is Sunday's entry. So, coming up next week is Chuseok, which is kind of like the Korean version of the Korean Thanksgiving. I don't want to say version, but Korean Thanksgiving. So I get Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off. So it's basically 5-day weekend. I teach Monday and Tuesday. Pretty excited. Not sure what I'm gonna do though. So yeah, I was thinking though about Seoul and about kind of how things work, and I think it's always surprising to see how people play off each other and how things work. I had not a deep conversation, but some pretty good conversations with my friend over coffee while we were in Seoul, and just on the nature of social interaction, and how, depending on how much you want out of it, you have to put that much effort into it. And I'm a bit older than a lot of the other scholars here. I was born in 1988, and a lot of them were born in 90 and 91, 92, so they're pretty young. To me, they're pretty young. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's just that I'm kind of like an old man at heart, and some people say they're an old man at heart, but if you ever meet me in person and kind of have a conversation with me, you'll see how much of an old man I am pretty quickly, if you haven't gleaned that already in the last 14 entries. So yeah, I think I don't know how much energy that I'm willing to put into most relationships. If someone intrigues me, if someone can kind of go toe to toe with me in a conversation in terms of humor and intellect and that kind of stuff, then it's really, I have a fun time talking with them, because it's fun talking with people that can you don't have to dance around with like formalities and asking questions that both of you don't probably really care that much about. And I know if you're someone that's really extroverted, hearing this may sound like really weird and negative or maybe insulting, but I'm telling you that it's not coming from an insulting place in me. It's just coming from in like a spot that I don't see the reason. It's not a negative thing at all for me. Okay, so I think I'll segue into the differences between perception and reception, or perception and intent, that's better. Intent and perception. It's always hard to argue intent. It's almost impossible to argue intent, because what really matters in terms of social interaction is, I think, sorry about that, is reception, or perception, because you can intend not to offend someone, but if they get offended, then guess what? What you said was offensive. It doesn't matter if what you're saying is trying to be just straight or blunt, but if someone gets offended by it, then you've offended them. So the perception of what you say and how you act is, I feel, of greater importance than your intent. Now, I've had a lot of discussions with my family and some of my friends back at home about intent, and how if this was a perfect world, intent would be the only thing that mattered. Because if you don't intend to hurt someone's feelings, the other person shouldn't get hurt, right? Because you don't mean to hurt them. But that's not how it works, obviously. So yeah, I always find that a very interesting topic to talk about, just because so many people have different views on it and different ways they approach it. And it's a really interesting thing for me to hear about how people are able to basically become like a different person, or maybe not a different person, but they're able to put forth so much energy and enthusiasm into relationships that aren't exactly like, this is another thing, I'm saying this in the intent of not offending you, but not meaningful. Like, the relationship isn't serious, it's just like a a surface level, or not material, but again, I'm now kind of worried about saying this, but it's a facade, or a it's just not serious, I guess is the best way to put it. And for me, since I was like 15, or no, before that, since I was about 11, I've never really been able to put forth that sort of energy out there. Charisma is something that I've always tried to have more of with my peers. I think that I'm one of those kinds of people that have always been able to talk with adults a lot easier than people my own age, simply because with adults you usually don't have to do a lot of fake, fake interaction. You can just talk. You don't have to kind of sugarcoat things. And adults, a lot of adults, the ones that I talk to at least, were old enough so that they don't feel like they have to do, they don't have to act young or act strange. There's no reason for it. But it's weird seeing the adults now that are kind of in their 30s and 40s, because they grew up in the 90s and the 80s, where like they've kind of have arrested development where they don't want to grow up. So when I worked back at home, I did a lot of DJing, and you can see these people who are in their 30s and 40s who act like they're in their 20s or teens still sometimes. It's an interesting thing. Well, I think this has gone on long enough, and I apologize sincerely if this has offended you. Again, like I said before, I know that perception is what matters, but the intent was not to offend. It was just to have a discussion, or just to talk about something that I find interesting and very fascinating, actually, because it's something that I've never been really able to do very well. So yeah, this has been entry number 15. I'll talk to you tomorrow with an update on the kindergarten and the first grade class. So I'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching. Bye.